Hello, good day. In today's lecture, we are going to continue our solution of the assignment. In the last video, we saw the solution till question number 4. The question number 4 is related to question number 4. So actually, I'm showing you on the screen the question number 4. In the question number 4, you see here, that actually it explains you or gives you a table which tells you that how much units of goods, how many units of goods you can produce, and how many units of services you can produce with available labor, capital, and land. And we can see here that you are actually able to produce different combinations, like say, for example, here. Like say, for example, the combination of 0 units of services and 100 units of goods. Similarly, the 50 units of services and 80 units of goods. And similarly, this, and other kind of the combinations, all right? Now, in this question number 5, this particular information is used to further look at, like, say, for example, look at this question number 5 here. The question number 5 actually reads that, referring back to question number 4, assume now that the technological progress allows a 4-fold increase in output of goods and services. Now, what you can see here, that particular technology that have been introduced into this particular kind of a system is actually, assuming that the technological progress actually increases the 4-fold, 4 times, all right, increase in output of goods. So whatever the technology is, like say, for example, when you were actually producing 100 units of goods, now you can produce 4-fold. So this is 100 multiplied by 4. Similarly, here it is 80 multiplied by 4. And all of those variables basically are like this. If, for example, we are multiplying them by 4. So the technology actually has allowed you to increase the production of goods by 4 times. So it means that you have to multiply all of the production units of goods by 4 to just look at this particular row for this new particular kind of a question. Okay. And the same technology allows you to produce double of the services goods, like say, for example, here. So like this, like say, for example, the maximum earlier on you could produce 150 units. Now you can produce 300 units. So every unit of service actually is being multiplied by 2. So you have got the new technology. This new technology basically allows you to produce, like say, for example, 4-fold of goods and 2-fold of services. Now, if you draw this particular kind of the production, kind of a production possibility frontier, supposedly this production possibility frontier has to be somewhere, like say, for example, this particular production possibility frontier, the earlier production possibility frontier must be inside. So that is something somewhere here. So this actually has shifted out because the technology has improved, and this improving technology basically has increased the production of goods by 4 folds and the production of services by 2 folds. Now, this is the curve you can draw, and you can also draw the old curve, and you can see that how a curve actually has shifted because of the increase in technology. The technology basically improves the output of a country, and that basically improves, and that improvement is shown by the shifting of the production possibility frontier to the rightwards. All right. Now, the C part of this question is about how has this technology progress affected the opportunity cost of a unit of good. Opportunity cost of a unit of good. All right. So take the correct one of the following answers. Now, there are 4, there are different options, 5 options, like they stay the same, doubles, halves, increases 4 times, decreases 4 times. Now, the correct option here is, you can see on your screen, is C. Okay. So this C actually is the correct option. And look at here, that why C. There is explanation for this. If you can produce 4 times as many units of goods and twice as many units of services with a given amount of resources, like say, for example, your technology has allowed you to increase your production of goods by 4 times and your production of services by 2 times. Then as the production actually moves from services to goods, if you move from services to goods, all right, like say for example, the production that you were using, the resources that you were using to produce services, now you're actually transferring them to production of the goods. So since the technology has doubled the production of services and actually done the 4 times the services of the the production of the goods, so to produce, like if you just want to move from services to goods, you will be needing just half of the units to produce the amount of the goods. Like say for example, only half as many units of services will need to be sacrificed for each extra unit of goods, because the technology and the new ratio basically is the 4:2. Now this is what, say for example, if you want to that is what something is happening here. So if you want to produce, like say for example, 1 units of goods, like here it is a goods and it is a services. Now if you want to produce, like say for example, if you want to transfer the resources from the services to goods, you will be just needing half of it, like half of the resources, like because this is what actually is a half. Like say for example, the unit of, say for example, labor and factor that can produce 2 units, the same units of labor can produce 4 units. So for 1 unit you will actually require the one services, basically if you shift it, you will be requiring the half of, you will be basically have to sacrifice half of the services, if you just want to produce 1 unit of good. Now, the question number 6, the last question of the assignment. The question reads, in country A, which has full employment of its resources, a large increase in the production of goods and services provided by the public sector, such as health, education, and new roads, would only be possible if there were a reduction in the production of other goods and services. Now, what does this say basically, about the production? Like, say, for example, if you just consider a country that basically is actually employing all of its resources. If a country is employing all of its resources, that is something, happens this. The country that employs all of its resources, basically, it produces on the production possibility frontier. And if you are producing on the production possibility frontier, like, say, for example, you are producing this much units of X and this much unit of Y. Now, from this particular point, if you want to increase your production of X, you have to reduce production of Y. That's what basically this question says. Now, a country A, which has full employment of its resources, a large increase in the production of goods and services provided to the public sector, such as health, education, and new roads, would only be possible if there were a reduction in the production of other goods and services, such as consumer goods. In country B, however, which is suffering from economic recession, when you say recession, by this recession, we mean there is a kind of economic, you are producing less than your potential and your output is falling. It would mean that, you are producing not exactly on the production possibility frontier, rather, you are producing somewhere inside the production possibility frontier. So you can produce more, but in the recession, you generally produce less because of several factors, because of the slowdown in the economic activity. It is argued that an increase in the public expenditure in such things as health, education, and roads would result in the production of more consumer goods. So, it is something, you are actually talking about a country B, which is suffering from economic recession. And it is argued that an increase in public expenditures on things like, say, for example, health, education, roads would result in the production of more goods and services. So here you can produce both of goods more because you have got unemployed or unused resources available. Now, in the part A, you have to explain briefly why the effect of an increase in public expenditure on the production of consumer goods would be different in 2 countries. The answer is quite obvious. Like, say, for example, in country A, with resources fully employed, there could only be an increase in the production of certain goods and services by diverting resources away from the production of the other goods. However, in country B, by using resources more fully, there could be an increase in production of all of the goods because initially you are not utilizing all of your resources. You have got some idle or unemployed resources available. So what you can do with them is, like, you can increase the production of both. Like, say, for example, if the government wants to increase the availability of the public facilities, it can actually does the both of the things together. Like, say, for example, it can increase the production of goods as well as the production of the services that it wants to give to the people. In fact, an increase in the expenditure in public service by increasing in income of those employed in the public sector could lead to more expenditure in consumer goods. And this would stimulate firms to produce more of them to meet extra demand. So this particular kind of an example is about, like, the perfect utilization of resources, that how the resources are being utilized. If the country is utilizing all of its resources, it can only produce more of one good if it produces less of the other good. But if a country is not producing or not utilizing all of its resources, it can produce both of the goods more. Like, say, for example, whatever goods it can produce because it has got some idle resources available. Now in part B, the part B reads, the following diagrams show the production possibility curves for the countries A and B. Make the current production point on each diagram at a point consistent with the statement above. Then mark a new position on each of the diagram to show, like, like, say, for example, if you look at the country A is producing efficiently. So it means that it is producing on the production possibility frontier. Like, look at here. It is producing A, like, say, for example, if it is producing point A, and if it wants to increase the production of, increase in the production of one good, it has to reduce the production of the other good. Like, say, for example, it wants to increase the public sector goods, it will have to reduce the goods and services that consumers consume. But look at this, the country A, basically, like the country B is basically, like producing at point A. So any increase in this basically can increase the both. Like, say, for example, here. So, like, that's what basically happens, and that's what basically is shown in the question. So that's what basically, like, you can mark in this question. So since this particular country is producing on the production possibility frontiers, you will mark some point on the production possibility frontier and you will move along that. And when you move along that, like, there is a negatively sloped curve. If one increases, the other decreases. It means that you cannot produce more of one good unless you produce less of the other good. Whereas in this particular kind of a situation, you can produce more of both goods because you have got some idle resources available. So the part C asks you to explain what is happening in the point B or in the part B. So in each case, there is a movement from point A to point B. In the case of country A, which is already producing on the production possibility curve, there is a movement along the curve, showing that the opportunity cost of producing more public goods and services, the amount of the private sector goods and services that have to be sacrificed. In the case of country B, the production was inside the production possibility curve. By making a fuller use of resources, more of both categories of goods and services can be produced. Point B is closer to the production possibility frontier. Then curve, like, than the point A, but still, like, you have got more resources employed. Still, you can produce more of both goods, and, like, you can produce more of public goods services, public sector services, without affecting the consumption of the private goods, private goods to the households. Here we ends this particular kind of assignment, like, and this is what basically uh, is the end of it. We will be, like, having another kind of video in which we'll be explaining the second assignment, the solution of the second assignment later on. Thank you for joining us.